$100,000, 12 months plus downtime, no parts. Are we on the same page? What are we talking about? Turbocharged Continental engines on any aircraft, Barons, and especially the twin Cessna aircraft. The reason you do not shut down engines to train with on a turbocharged Continental engined airplanes is because you're going to possibly, and it's a high possibly, crack the cases. I've seen this for 25 years of dealing with twin Cessnas, and we saw it. I've been doing this 58, 59 years, and my background's power plants, not rivets. I can't even use a pop rivet, but I know engines. I've handled cases as an attorney on Continental turbocharged engine cracked cases. And about 7 or 8 years ago, there was a gentleman that it was very low time, and he trained in a smaller airplane, a twin, and he had a lot of money, and he decides to buy a 421C and drop a bunch of money into the airplane. So he bought 2 brand new Ram Gitsu engines for his 421C. And it had a pre-buy done on the airplane, an annual new Ram engines. And 7 months, 8 months later, an attorney contacted one of my clients in Ram and several others and said the engines came out of Ram defective with cracked cases. Now, I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but I can tell you Ram breaks their engines in, and they don't send out engines with cracked cases. So litigation started, and we got into the discovery where we get to look at their documents and they get to look at our documents. Well, here's the bottom line. They took the plane back to where he lived, and his little instructor decided they're going to do engine shutdowns in the airplanes, right and left, over and over and over, and he cracked the cases up by the data plate. Now, there's a service bulletin on these turbocharged Continental engines on the lighter cases that says you can have a 2-inch crack as long as it doesn't leak and you monitor it. We've had it happen to us years ago on a 310 engine that was in a 340, and I've had pilots come in. I had one the other day that we got to talking about this in ground school, and he said, yeah, we had the crack, we just monitored it till we replaced them. So there are a lot of people out there that are saying, oh yeah, you can fly, we'll train you in the airplane. Well, why are they training you in the airplane? You can't do a lot of the emergencies, or you can do them, but you better check your life insurance policy and talk to your wife or significant other. So why do we not train in the airplane? Well, because we can do more emergencies and not worry about $100,000, 12 months plus, and no parts by using a simulator. Now, if you think that AST wanted to go out there with their primary investor and spend millions of dollars for simulators when we could have trained in your airplane, think about why we did it. 1, we can do more emergencies, but 2, we can save all of the Continental engines from cracking. So you've got to decide whether you want to believe these people that says we're going to train you in the airplane and don't worry about it, or you're going to have to think about $100,000, 12 months or longer, and no parts, because there's not a lot of light cases out there. Yes, Ram is coming out with a heavier case. In my understanding, you can probably get it quicker. But why do you want to spend $100,000 to begin with when all you had to do is properly operate the engine? I had a gentleman come in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, and he's a repeat and a very, very nice guy. And it was one of those Saturday, Sunday classes that we usually don't do, but we're so busy. So I went in after, and I taught some ground school, and he started talking to me about engine problems, and finally it came out that he had listened to somebody about shutting down an engine in his 421C, and yes, you got it, he cracked the case. And his statement to me, he says, well, who says you can't do it? And I said, anybody that's got any sense, who's been working with these airplanes for 58 years, and who's taught power plants and understands the problem with why these cases are cracking. So it's your airplane, it's your checkbook, it's your downtime. You can do whatever you want. I'm sitting here trying to tell you that if you have the light cases, which everybody still pretty well has the light cases, there's a high percentage that you're going to crack those cases. I've had cases and seen cases that would crack from the middle of the engine up to where the prop shaft comes out, somewhere in that area. That's the high stress point. And I had one I saw that cracked at the alternator. And I was involved in that, and I kept thinking it was a gasket, and it wasn't. It was a cracked case from the inside. So you need to decide what you want to do. But if you're going to one of these facilities and paying their money to destroy your engines, you might want to think twice. Now, if you want to shut down an engine, go find a 0470, an IO470, and a 310 and do that. But really, you can do all of that in a simulator, a high-end simulator. Yes, there are some cheap simulators out there, or let me say inexpensive. But, in our case, our simulators cost millions of dollars, and they are adequate to handle the 340 turbocharged, the 414 and 414A turbocharged, that being the TSI 0520s, and the Gitsu and the 421C. We have the panels. So we're going to drill you and talk to you about engine out until you're sick of it. By the way, as of this date, we know we have lost or had pilots that we've trained that have had 12 shutdowns, and these are the ones we just know of and never lost an airplane. No, I'm not going to get into that. It's your decision, but you're going to crack the cases. So let me show you some cracked cases. And this is just a couple, and I've probably got 4 or 5 more pictures, but I'm not going to waste your time. So you decide what you want to do. If you want to train in the airplane in these big bore Continental engines, and you want to listen to somebody say, oh, it's not going to cause a problem, get them to put up a bond. You get them to say, well, if it does in the next 6 to 8 months, a crack shows up, are you going to pay for it? Think about that. Oh, I guarantee you they're going to come back and say, well, no, I don't think so. But don't worry about that. We do this all the time. So fly them right, they'll last. Recently, I saw a gentleman take off ahead of me, and he went, it was a turbocharged Continental engine, and he went from idle to full power immediately. And I tell people these engines on these bigger airplanes, turbocharged engines, are like relationships. If you push them, immediately throw the power to them, put them in a corner, you're going to have a problem. But like any other relationship to work out, it takes time, it has to be slow, and it has to be positive. You have to understand what you're dealing with. We recently had an A36 Bonanza at the airport where one of our simulator schools are based, and this gentleman took off with his wife in a Continental engine A36, and all of a sudden, partially down the runway, a big glob of black smoke. Well, black smoke is fuel. Did he abort? No. I mean, we shove that down your throat. You take off to abort, not take off. You always qualify the abort. Well, he took off, lost the engine, landed on the highway, plane caught on fire, he got out, but his wife had burns over 70% of her body, and we didn't think she was going to live, but she did. And I don't know the people. The plane stayed on the ramp for a long time, burned to pieces. So you need to think about this. One of the things we teach on the Continental turbocharged engines is, it's like Ron Popeil used to say about his little cooker. You set them and forget them. So when we set them at altitude, We leave them alone until we get 5 to 6 miles from the airport. Yes, we descend with the cruise setting, and then we bring it back slowly in 3 to 4 miles out and then in the pattern. And we've got some tricks that we teach on how to handle the speed in these airplanes. Yes, we sometimes fly our 421C and our 340 into the low yellow arc, smooth air, but we don't pull back the engines. So it's your airplane. You do whatever. So think about it. $100,000, 12 months or longer with no parts. And think about having that plane shut down and you're sitting there trying to fly and you can't get the parts to fix it. It's your bank account, it's your airplane, and it's your safety. Do whatever you want. But on our two twin Cessna turbocharged 340 and 421C that we have in our hangars and that I have flown for 25 years, I'm not going to play games with those engines. Thank you for listening. And if you take our ground school at AST, you'll find out it's totally different from anybody else's. We don't check boxes. We teach you, especially in our 100-page handout, all the nitpicky things on these airplanes, both the Barons and the twin Cessnas. We do a lot of 310 training. We do a lot of Navajo training. Thanks for listening to me. And if you have any questions, you can email us. You can sign up for a course. We're here to try to help you. We do this because we believe in safety. And no, we will let you fly in our airplanes. We will give you introduction in our airplanes, but we will not shut down engines in our airplanes.